set to be a catastrophic storm, one of the strongest ever recorded in the Atlantic. A short while ago, Hurricane Irma battered the tiny island of Barbuda, bringing winds of nearly 300 kilometers an hour. The powerful Category 5 storm is now making its way towards Puerto Rico, thrashing everything in its path. Here's what the storm looks like right now from the International Space Station. Puerto Rico and the US state of Florida have both declared states of emergency. A 36-hour curfew has been issued for the whole of the US Virgin Islands, whilst the Bahamas has ordered the evacuation of six southern islands. The very latest on Irma's path, let's get right to meteorologist Chad Myers, because people are very frightened out there.
Absolutely, Max. We had winds 155 miles per hour. As you said, you do the conversion. That's almost 300 kilometers per hour. And then the wind vane broke. This is Barbuda, 155 miles per hour, 300 kilometers per hour roughly. And then we don't know what happened next because the wind speeds could have even been a little bit higher. The wind anemometer broke on that island. There won't be very much left, at least vegetation-wise, on Barbuda for a very long time. Now we're over St. Martin and Antigua and Anguilla, really getting pounded now this morning. Eventually, the next stop will be the British Virgin Islands, from Jost Van Dyke over to Necker, all the way over to Virgin Gorda. A monster storm going to be hitting this region in about 2 or 3 hours. Eventually, next, we go to Turks and Caicos. That's where some of these islands that are very low, 8 feet, may be overwashed with a 20-foot storm surge. People need to be off that island. We know that there are evacuations mandatory, especially for tourists there. Eventually, we are going to see it maybe make a run somewhere between Cuba and the United States. But let's focus on what's next. What's next is Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands. The line of demarcation for where the center of the eye is looks like something like that. But there will be such a large wind field with this storm, even Puerto Rico may feel winds in excess of almost 200 kilometers per hour on the North Shore, those gusts pushing water on land in those very populated areas just to the east of San Juan, in San Juan proper, and that's what we're really worried about, that northern surge for Puerto Rico. And then you move this thing through the Turks and Caicos, and it's a devastating storm, Max. I don't have words for what 300 or 340 kilometers per hour look like, because there's sometimes the islands get completely overwashed with stuff like this, with storms like this. This is only 10 miles per hour, 20 kilometers per hour less than Haiyan. Okay, think about what Haiyan did to the West Pacific.
It's just filling the world with dread. Hopefully it won't be as bad as we fear, but it's obviously looking absolutely appalling. Thank you so much for that, Chad. Cuba bracing for the wrath of that hurricane then. Patrick Ottman is in Havana to tell us about the preparations there. The warnings have gone out. Are people taking notice of them?
Yeah, good morning. The Cuban government has issued warnings to most of this island now, Max, and people are paying close attention. What we expect as the storm approaches the island over the next few days, the government will begin to order evacuations in coastal areas where you're likely to experience that kind of storm surge and flooding, and as well begin to pre-deploy supplies. This is an island that has a lot of history with hurricanes, but as you were just discussing with Chad, there hasn't ever been a hurricane quite like this one, so people are taking notice. A lot of people are getting the news from their relatives in Miami. I have to say, though, when I drove to our office this morning and drove down much of Havana's seafront, I didn't see a single window boarded up, and that's because so many of those hurricane supplies you just don't find here. There are luxuries on a good day. Things like plywood and bottled water sometimes are just very hard to come by. So many people will just have to ride it out as best as they can. One group of people not riding it out are the passengers on this cruise ship behind me, the Norwegian Sky. It is cutting its visit to Cuba 1 day short. Company representatives tell us that they will return to Miami as early as today to get out of the storm's path and give some of their 2,000 passengers a better opportunity to get back home and out of the way of the storm. Of course, for most of the population of Cuba, they will not have that same opportunity, Max. They're going to have to ride this out.
Okay, Patrick in Havana, thank you. We will keep an eye on the movement of that storm, of course, and any damage caused. But in other news, you can't get much further from Moscow than